All right, well, good morning. My name is Jason Lamm. To my left is Larry Moore and Kimberly, L-E-Y, Kim Moore. Larry and Kim are the parents of Brad Moore. And you may remember that name from January 24th of this year, when there was a high-speed pursuit which reached speeds in excess of 90 miles an hour, over 90 miles between Gilbert and almost Camp Verde. And unfortunately, we all know how that ended. It ended in the very sad and tragic death of Brad Moore. Now, what we don't know, beyond the video that we've seen so far, is who Brad was. Well, Brad was an honorably discharged veteran. He was 29 years old when this happened. And like a lot of veterans, they had PTSD. They have problems when they come back from the Middle East. And that was something that Brad was dealing with. And we want to put it out there. There's no secret. Brad stole a car on January 24th. And that was wrong. And that's something that we're going to say right up front. But stealing that car, that truck, did not have to cost Brad his life. There's been a lot of audio, video of the incident. Media choppers captured the entire pursuit. And if you look at it with a little knowledge that we have now, it was like there was a pack of rabid coyotes going after wounded prey. High speeds, long distance, for a non-violent property crime. Nobody had to die because of it. Brad was driving on 2 blown rims after DPS spiked 2 of his tires. They tried to ram him. Multiple orders were given for pit maneuvers. That is, that law enforcement was trying to spin him out at a high rate of speed in conditions of snow, ice, and fog. The conditions were so bad that some officers had to pull back out of safety concerns for themselves. In fact, there was actually a YouTube video. A civilian had a dash cam, and it shows that law enforcement passed him by at over 90 miles an hour when they followed Brad. 5 separate undercover vehicles. The first one didn't even have lights or sirens. The other ones had lights, but clearly this was a grievous policy violation. And unfortunately, this shows the last moments of the pursuit that caused Brad's death. Now, I want to say this pursuit was initiated by and instigated by and continued by DPS Lieutenant Colonel Heston Silbert, the Deputy Director. He was off duty. He saw what was in fact Brad stealing a truck, but he was in his personal vehicle. He had no police lights, no radio. He was just left to communicate with Gilbert Dispatch by his cell phone. And the reality of the situation is he wouldn't stop, no matter what. Even when the Phoenix police helicopter, Firebird, told him to stand down, to terminate the pursuit, because Phoenix officers were ready to move in. The helicopter said, "Give him some room. He will slow down. He will stop. My officers will move in." Lieutenant Colonel Silbert, he would not stop. It was as though he was going after Brad like a wounded animal, and there was nothing that was going to make him stop. In fact, he even told the Gilbert dispatchers on the phone, "Don't worry, I've got a full tank of gas. I just filled up yesterday." There was nothing that was going to make him stop until he got what he wanted, and that is what cost Brad his life. The notice of claim that has been filed discusses the insufficient training that police officers had and the violation of policies and police procedures. This was a horrific situation. It placed the general public at risk. It placed officers at risk. And of course, we know that it placed Brad at risk, and it cost him his life. What happened on January 24th, 2017 was wrong. There was no excuse for it. It didn't have to happen, and it didn't need to end the way it did. Brad stole a car, and that is wrong. But this is a nonviolent property crime. This didn't need to end the way it did. Now, the notice of claim that has been served both on the town of Gilbert and the state of Arizona seeks damages, financial compensation. From the state of Arizona, a total of $4 million is being sought, 2 on behalf of Larry and 2 on behalf of Kim. From the town of Gilbert, an additional $300,000 for their role in the pursuit, $150,000 for Larry and $150,000 for Kim. A notice of claim is a document that must be served on a governmental entity before a lawsuit can actually be filed. So we have taken the first step to put both the state of Arizona and the town of Gilbert on notice that there may be a lawsuit filed as a result of this incident, and we have made them aware of the facts and circumstances. We encourage both the state and Gilbert to reach out to us. It's something they're allowed to do. We encourage them to do that. Look, we all know what happened was wrong, but let's not make a bad situation worse. Let's talk about this openly. Let's talk about this honestly so changes can be made so something like this never happens again. Let's not put this on the taxpayers' back. Let's not let this drag out for years and years. Make it right for these people. Okay. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Larry and Kim are not really going to be talking about the facts of the case, but they can tell you a little something about Brad. I'm sure they'd be happy to tell you about their son.
I have a question about the case. Have you guys seen the report that DPS put out regarding this incident? And what can you tell us or talk to us about that report they put out?
Well, DPS completed what's called a critical incident review. That was DPS investigating DPS. And what's interesting about that is there was a very high-ranking DPS official who had experience testifying as an expert witness in pursuits. Well, he made a specific recommendation that the pursuit, which was initiated by Lieutenant Colonel Silbert, be investigated by an outside agency. Well, in fact, not only was that recommendation rejected, but Lieutenant Colonel Silbert transferred that individual into a new position shortly after he made the request. With regard to the report itself, this is what happens when you have a preconceived notion. We already have evidence and information that before that report was even complete, DPS had made up its mind that nothing wrong was done, and that was the conclusion that they were going to come to.
One of the things that you didn't mention, Jason, is that Lieutenant Colonel Silbert did believe at the time that there was a victim with their life in danger in this vehicle.
Well, at one point he says that in the audio, but that is completely contrary to the evidence. And if we look at the Gilbert report, clearly the off-duty officer who was working the traffic detail, as well as the owner of that truck, they ran after it, and they made it very clear that there was only one person in the car, and that was Brad. And in fact, we know that, albeit through cell phone communication only and not a police radio, that Lieutenant Colonel Silbert was talking to Gilbert. We don't believe that for a minute, that he thought that there were two people in there. That was just a last-minute justification to continue this dogged pursuit.
How do you feel about the fact that he was cleared? And if you guys want to answer that later, you can.
I don't attribute any weight to it, because this is what happens when you have drinking buddies investigating drinking buddies. Okay? It was a preconceived notion. You can call it a CYA, and if I didn't think that you would edit my sound, I tell you that I think it's a load of crap. I don't pay any attention to it.
Well, you mentioned PTSD. Was he being treated for that condition at the time of this?
Brad was being treated through the Veterans Administration.
What meds was he on?
I don't have all the records from the VA at this point, but Larry and Kim, I think you can generally say that he was in treatment with the VA for issues that he sustained in Afghanistan.
Yes.
Before we go to Larry and Kim, just to clarify, you said may file a lawsuit, so there is actually not a lawsuit filed at this time.
Correct. The notice of claim is simply the precursor. It requires that any entities who could be defendants be put on notice within 180 days of the incident. That happened last week. Our investigation continues. We never want to reach any foregone conclusions. We want to be complete, thorough, and accurate. But we do have 1 year from the date of incident if we are going to file that suit.
Larry and Kim, our condolences up front. Certainly if we get into areas that you feel you can't answer because of this lawsuit, feel free to tell us. Obviously Jason will wrangle us too. Let's start with Brad. I mean, let's start with just that. Who is Brad? Who was Brad Moore?
Well, he was our son. He was a brother, uncle, cousin, friend. He was a happy person. He was friendly with whoever he met. Everybody loved to be around him. He loved sports. He loved getting out and meeting people and doing things. Really cared about people and loved family. It was a joy to be around. He loved being around us, loved coming to family dinners and holidays and you know, we just miss him dearly. I mean,
Jason mentioned that he was having some problems. Are you comfortable in describing what sort of problems he was experiencing as a veteran?
Well, he had problems with PTSD. He would get meds from the VA, would be shipped to our house. I can't remember exactly what they were. But he would have some ups and downs as I guess you would expect from a veteran with PTSD. He had ups and downs. And,
If I may, what sorts of things can you relate that Brad saw in Afghanistan that caused him to have PTSD?
Well, he was a mechanic. They had to go out on runs and retrieve vehicles, and so they were often out amongst the town sites, people all the time. They had to go out at night. He had to. They would go up in the cargo planes and push out supplies to the forward troops, and he always said that was really hair-raising. They used to send shells out from this operating base, from his base out to launch them over to the opposing side, and he said that would go on sometimes all night. And then he witnessed, when he was back at base camp, he witnessed one of his good buddies that he actually was living with at the time. There was 3 guys living together commit suicide, and they did that right in front of him and his buddy. And that just really just sent him into a tailspin.
As parents, I have boys. What is that like for you when your son comes home broken like that?
Well, you wonder if you made, whenever he decided to go into the Army, we decided that we weren't going to push him one way or the other. We wanted him to get out and experience something new and get out of town and do something different. But we always thought, well, what if he doesn't come back? We didn't want to push him one way or the other. And so when he came back, I had doubts in my mind as well, maybe that wasn't what he should have done. I mean, maybe he should have stayed here and went to school, or you always wonder if you hope I didn't coax him into doing the wrong thing, you know, and you know, you always have doubts as what could have happened, but
When
you just don't know.
he did return though in that position and in that we did everything we could to help him, and he did start doing better, so we did a lot to help him, you know.
So the support was there.
Oh sure, yeah, he has a huge family support.
Where were you on that day? Did you know that was him in the middle of this chase? Were you watching the chase? Did you find out afterwards?
We figured it was him. We knew he had gotten into some trouble, and just from the things that we had saw on the news clips that were coming out, we just, from everything, my daughter had saw something on, I don't know if it was on TV or on Facebook, and that a guy had stolen a truck, and we just, I don't know, we just felt that was him, and so we tuned into the news, to the live feed on the internet, and basically watched it all the way up till they lost contact.
Yeah. We watched the whole thing from our home. We watched it to the end.
And we heard all the
Were you trying to get a hold of him
information.
at the time? Wondering-
Yeah,
Yes.
we were.
Okay. Why do you think he might have stolen that truck? Any idea?
No, we don't know. I mean,
How
Didn't
did
have
you
any reason.
feel in June when Lieutenant Colonel Silver was cleared?
we just want the truth to come out. We don't, we don't have any information, we don't have any bone to pick with anybody, we just want the truth to come out.
It
And
was
so-
very heartbreaking,
Yeah.
when we found out. We were very, you know, there's a lot of emotions that are gonna play into it, but it's just, we couldn't believe it, just heartbreaking.
How do you feel about the chase?
We want the truth, and we feel like that, you know, we feel like it shouldn't have ended the way it did. The outcome could have been and should have been much different.
What have these past few months been like without Brad?
It's been so hard. He's been gone 6 months today, and your life's never gonna be the same, and it's been very, very hard. He's got 2 sisters, and it's been hard on our whole family, and you just learn to try to get through day to day, you know, but it's been rough.
Why the lawsuit?
Well, we're not at a lawsuit yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. What will you miss most?
What do I miss most? Just being able to talk to him. We did a lot together. We had a lot of fun, did a lot of team roping and spending time around the house. He'd come around the house when I had projects going on. He'd weld with me, and just that personal interaction is what I'm gonna miss the most.
Brad was larger than life. He had a contagious laugh and smile, you know, and he was our only son. So we miss him every day.
Can you kind of describe the difference in him from when he went into the military and when he came home? I'm from the military myself, so I know there's a huge difference. Can you kind of tell us what it was with your son specifically? Like, paint us a picture.
I can't say anything really specifically, but he was just a fun, loving, outgoing person, and he was when he came back. But you could tell he was real skeptical of situations.
Paranoid.
You know, we just, I can't put anything specific on it, but we could just tell he has changed, and yeah, nothing really specific.
You say paranoid, you believe he thought people were out to get him?
No,
he
no,
just-
you know, I think just from everything he saw and witnessed, I just think he was, you know, it troubled him. I think it would anyone, you know.
And you mentioned problems earlier that led you to believe that he may have been the person involved in this chase before you've actually been told that he was. Was he in trouble before this? Was he having problems
No,
as a civilian?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
What made you think this was him?
I think just the little tidbits that we caught on the internet, and then we heard while we was watching it that it was an Army guy and paratrooper, and we could actually see a couple of those times you could actually see him through the window, and we just kind of, between that and the intuition or whatever, we just felt that was, but we didn't know for sure, for a fact, until they came to our back door. We didn't know for a fact.
Any idea why he didn't stop?
It's probably a question to ask Brad someday.
Yeah. I don't know.
What rank did he achieve in the military? And where was he living at the time of the incident?
He was in the process of moving back into our house. He had been spending some time in Safford, where we were originally from. And I don't remember his rank in the Army.
I don't remember. I know he was a paratrooper.
Yeah, he was in the 82nd Airborne, but I don't remember his rank.
What's something positive you guys want to get from all of this? Want to get out there?
Well, I just want to get to the facts, get to the truth, and have the recognition of we did all we could. We feel that there's more information that probably should come out, that we hope gets to come out. And that's really about it. I mean, we just want to have some closure, and we want the truth. And whatever that happens, that's what we want.
Well, how are his sisters handling it? How are the girls handling it?
Difficult. They were really close to him, and he's got 6 nephews and nieces, and 4 of them are 5 years old and up, and they were really close to him, and they're having a difficult time with it. We have to answer questions. Where's Brad? How'd this happen? Was he in a wreck? Those type of things that are really difficult to deal with our nephews and nieces, with our grandkids.
How are all the kiddos taking it? Are they all in varying different degrees? Are they all swamped with it? Like, what are they going through?
Well, I think as far as the grandkids, they're all varying degrees. We have one of our grandsons was really, Brad actually lived with him for a while, and he's really taken it hard. Of course, they all are taking it hard. Brad used to, when we'd have holidays, Brad would get out in the yard and play with them and swim with them and put on Halloween costumes and play with them. And he was like a little kid when he was around them. And then my daughters are both taking it, of course, they're taking it really hard.
We're a very close-knit family. We did everything together, and even though he was, maybe a little bit older, he still was, we were with him all the time, and he was, like I said, he was the life of the party. He was a great guy, and we just hope that, we can leave no stone unturned, that we can go and, that we're able to,
I know Brad was honorably discharged.
Yeah.
Was it because his term of enlistment expired and he just didn't re-up?
No.
Or was
he discharged. He was honorably discharged medically.
First PTSD.
And every life is priceless, but $4 million plus is a lot of money. How did you all arrive at that figure?
And that's going to be a legal thing that, obviously, so that's something that we're working on.
I'm just wondering if there's a punitive aspect to that.
No, there's no punitive damages against the state.
Well, most of our military, when they're sent overseas to serve, their only decompression of coming out of the military is that 20-plus hour flight back from wherever they are. And many do end up suffering from PTSD because there is no decompression time. Is there something you'd like to see maybe us as a society do so that this doesn't happen to somebody else's son or daughter? That there's something they can reach out to other than the VA and they actually have that decompression time?
It would be nice if there was something other than the VA, but we had hoped that the VA would be able to create some programs. Or Brad was in and out of the VA quite a bit for different things, of course, for physical elements and for other. And we would, of course, like for it to shed some light on aftercare for veterans and the need, and it's rampant. The PTSD is, and it's real. We talk to of course, we know a bunch of people, that guys and gals that has come back from the Army and have suffered through PTSD, and they're telling us personally it's real. It wrecks lives, and some people can get away from it and rise up and do okay for a while, and some don't. And they said it's a real issue.
How long had he been out of the service before he lost his life?
He was discharged in 2009.
Okay, so a few years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys have talked about wanting answers. Jason, the lieutenant colonel, has been pretty adamant that he was never in pursuit, and DPS stipulated that in the findings of their internal review, saying he was never in pursuit. Therefore, he acted reasonably. That
Well,
they never considered him in pursuit.
Well, I think the assertion that the lieutenant colonel was not in pursuit is just flatly contradicted by the video evidence of the chase. I mean, they can say whatever they want, but the video doesn't lie. And then when you back it up with the audio transmissions that we've listened to, and I know that that has been distributed to various members of the media, that just flatly contradicts his assertion.
How long was Brad in the military, and how long did he spend in Afghanistan?
He was in right at 2 years, and he spent 4 or 5 months in Afghanistan. He actually, when he got done with his training at the 82nd Airborne, his company that he was supposed to be with was already in Afghanistan, so he just went out there to join them.
That was with the Navy?
No, the Army.
Army.
So he was a member of the 82nd Airborne out of, whatever it is in Tennessee.
Fort Bragg.
Thank you.
When do you expect to arrive at a decision as to whether or not to actually file a lawsuit?
We're still in an active investigation. We're interviewing witnesses. We're working with experts and various consultants. We are very mindful, of course, of the deadline that's imposed by state law, and if we do file a lawsuit, we're certainly going to adhere to that. Okay. Anybody got anything else? All right. Okay.
Thank
Good.
you, folks.
Yes, thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.